Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Achieving Unity Success Formula. We're glad to see you every week. I am Mark Intrican, the author and your podcast host today. My gift to you is on the screen. It is your free Achieving Unity guide now. There is no value to anger, hate, or prejudice. Instead, we can turn to encouraging, inspiring, and including others. So if you go to the QR code on the bottom left, you get a copy of our Unity Guide, and we would love you to get in touch with us on our blog, which you can either the QR code or on the bottom right. Hope you will connect with us. And this is Achieving Unity Success Formula Weekly podcast. And this is number 39. We've been going since September of last year, and we'd love for you to be here every week at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. I'd love to have you come. Bring your questions, bring your friends, bring your family, people you work with. We'd love to have you join us here. And we are Reality Focused Dynamics is the company. Excuse me. We're focused on success focused solutions. We want to make sure that what we do is all about being focused. And you can see at the bottom of the screen, my telephone number is even 303-362-8733, which is the same as 303 Focus. So get in touch with us. On the left, you'll see the QR code for our home. It's our home website. On the right, see our QR code to contact me. Contact me anytime. Let's talk. Let's keep that communication, that collaboration going strong, going forward. We show you how to get to proven, compassionate strategies that turn conflict into lasting harmony at home, at work, and in every relationship that matters. Have you ever been frustrated by tension? Maybe with arguments with someone? Our 7-step roadmap gives you the tools to move from conflict to collaboration quickly and confidentially. We will help you as you crave for stronger trust, stronger connection. We'll help you discover communication tactics that build respect, repair relationships, and unify teams and families alike. We help you transform that conflict into connection, together, achieving unity. Unity inspires homes. It shapes society and it transforms workplaces. We help you turn that frustration into understanding. Have you ever heard anybody say, "What the frustration?" We find value in your actions instead of reacting in anger or that frustration, which it happens so often. We help you get beyond that frustration, get into a happier life, making things better. We show that anger holds no value. Anger, Anger, is the same as actions not gaining effective results. Again, there's no value in anger. We need to get beyond it. Life does happen, and it happens in every relationship, from personal to professional, from parenting time to partnerships. It happens in the bedroom, it happens in the boardroom, and every room in between. We show you how to embrace challenges and encourage a more inspired and inclusive future. And if you're reading my newsletter, you'll see more about the articles where I talk about EII. Encourage, inspire, and include others. One vision, one goal, achieving unity in every area of life. Our call to action is ditching the drama. Let's get stuff done. We can help show you how to turn your life from what may seem like a dumpster fire into a well-oiled machine. Achieving unity is the path to stronger relationships, inspired leadership, and lasting change. You need help in coaching, consulting, courses, and keynote speeches. Call us today. Reach us at realityfocusdynamics.com, or you can go to the QR code down there in the right, bottom right. Love to talk with you. Let's get together. Let's connect. And then our course, next one starts in August, August 7th. It'll be for 7 Thursdays, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, which helps us live life fully through present moment awareness. Achieving unity does not just solve problems. It builds bridges, bridges of possibility. It encourages every person's growth by replacing criticism with compassion. It inspires change through hope, not pressure. Every step forward matters. Include every voice so no one feels unseen, unheard, or unworthy. When we replace that disconnection with empathy and that frustration with understanding, we create a larger space, a much larger space for trust, collaboration, and shared success. Want to know more about the course? The QR code in the bottom right will give you more information and allow you to sign up. This is how we thrive together, achieving unity. Our next podcast coming up. Again, this is weekly. We want to see you every week. Some of you are seeing this on the recording. It is on YouTube. Watch the recording. Come on, join us during the day. Would love to see you. Love you to be part of this. Next week, we have Keith Schumacher talk about father-friendly schools. He'll be here on June 18th. On the next week, we have Alan Stevens, International Profiling and Communication Specialist. Help us communicating better as parents, as people in what we do. Again, that's June 25th. On July 2nd, just 2 days before Independence Day in the United States, we have Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman coming to talk with us about the price of freedom, honoring that cost that we have paid for independence. Okay, that's on July 2nd. Please come join. I have not got commitment yet from my person from Loyola for focus on U.S. independence. As soon as that's on there, I'll get that logged and I'll put it on the site. But that's coming up on July 9th, which is the Wednesday right after Independence Day. And on 7/16, July 16th, Vicki Mizell will come talk to us about championing memory enhancement. Don't we all want to be able to remember just a little bit more? I know many times our mind is so busy, we forget, our mind skips. Here, Vicki will come help us remember better and champion that memory enhancement. Today, I am so honored. It's been a pleasure talking with him. Met him about a month ago. This is a person, a man that is empowering dads and families to overcome financial and legal challenges with confidence. He's navigating the complexities of fatherhood, of parenting, and divorce. It's a journey that going to talk to us about a journey that many men face, but few resources offer the practical guidance and compassion that's needed to truly thrive during these challenging times. His personal story, including his advocacy after losing his wife, Melanie, to pancreatic cancer, adds a layer of inspiration showing how unity and support can transform lives. Through his Crushing Debt podcast and personalized legal counsel, Shawn offers tools to ease the burden of debt and foster family resilience, the values that also resonate with our mission of building unity. He's dedicated to guiding dads and families through life's toughest financial and legal challenges, helping them find clarity, security, and hope when they need it most. Please help me welcome Shawn Yesner. Hey, Shawn, how are you today?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having
Uh,
me on the show.
Thank you for taking the time. This is awesome. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah.
So much to do and so much to talk about. It's an honor to have you. It's just one of these things where the legal industry is so difficult and so challenging that be able to have someone like you is so awesome at what we do. It's almost almost unbelievable to have someone like you come and help us. So
Yeah.
beyond your legal expertise, though, as I mentioned earlier, we deeply appreciate your absolutely tireless work in supporting pancreatic cancer patients, particularly through that, I believe it's called PanCan, Purple Stride, in
Yep.
honor of your late wife.
The Pancreatic Cancer Action Network is, yeah, it's called PanCan for short. They have their Purple Stride walk every year at the end of April, as I recall. And so, yeah, this past year, so 2025, we raised, I want to say, around $7 or $8,000, and then last year was the first year we did the walk after my wife passed, and we raised, I want to say, it was around 12 or $13,000. So I'm very proud. I wish I didn't have to do it, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to give it my best. And so we've raised about 20 grand for pancreatic
Wow,
cancer research in the last couple of years.
that is excellent. Thank you what you do, what you've done, but I still sympathize that that's a tough one. That's a challenge to lose someone that you love so much. And I believe you have two boys.
Yes, I have two boys. My oldest is 13, and my youngest will be 11 next week's show, the 18th, June
Oh,
18th.
all
So
right,
yeah,
good.
two boys.
That's exciting, interesting, and you've got them involved, I'm guessing, in many events and
Yeah,
activities.
yeah, we're in summer now. So what I've done is my younger son goes to the community recreation center. They have a summer camp program, so he goes there every day. My older son also goes to that recreation center. He got a job, or not a job. He got it's called the Future Leaders Program. So he's basically a CIT, a counselor in training. And so he goes to the
Wow.
rec center in the afternoons and helps the counselors with the younger kids. Now, what I did with both of them is they go to the rec center for the entire summer, but then I pull them out a week here or a week there. So for example, my older son, as we speak right now, is at a cooking class by a
Oh,
company called
excellent.
Sur La Table, that they have a cooking class. And so actually, as soon as we're done recording, I got to go pick him up and his friends up. My younger
Okay,
son,
now, well, before you go to that next story, let me talk. Is he going to be bringing you something good to eat?
I think they eat it there. He doesn't. I wish he brought it home, but I think they eat what they make there. But he's done this camp 3 years in a row, and the first
Wow.
year they did guacamole and hummus and all this. So he loves making that kind of stuff. He still makes that kind of stuff for me. Last year was pastries. This year it's other kinds of things. So he loves he enjoys cooking. So he's been doing that, and yeah, my younger son is going to take a week and go to a rock music camp. He's also going to
Wow.
take a week and go to a robotics coding camp. And
That's
then,
great.
we're here in Tampa Bay. So in July, we're going to shoot across the state. My mom is taking us all to Disney. So we're going to take a week vacation and go to Disney in July.
Are you going to ride the roller coaster with your sons?
I love roller coasters.
Oh, do you?
Uh,
Okay.
my younger son just graduated fifth grade. He's going into middle school into sixth grade, and his end of year trip was a trip to Universal with his class, and so I volunteered to chaperone. And so he and I got to hang out a couple of weeks ago all day at Universal Studios, and we didn't go to the
Wow.
we didn't go to the new part of the park. We went to Islands of Adventure, but we rode there all the roller coasters there, the Incredible Hulk roller coaster, the Harry Potter roller coasters, all the we rode all we love. And then being here in Tampa Bay, we're right by Busch Gardens. We love going on roller coasters.
That's excellent. I've been on a roller coaster in a long time, but I've been with several people that just would not get on a roller coaster. Too much. I don't know but I'm like you. I love them. They
Yeah.
have one in Denver that's about 99 years old, but maybe not quite that old, but seems like it. But I will still ride it. I love the roller
Yeah.
coaster.
Well, so funny story at Universal, they have the Velocicoaster based on Jurassic Park. And that one is, I've been on it before. I didn't go on it this last time because even that one's a little bit too intense for me. But yeah, I love roller coasters.
There's some, and nowadays I would like to go to some of the new parks. I've been to California, I have been to Florida, but I would
You
love
need
to
to,
go see some of the new parks and see those extreme roller coasters they have now.
yeah, you need to Disney. Disney. I tell a joke about Disney that did you hear that somebody stole some product from Disney? They got away with about 10 grand worth of inventory from Disney. They took two hot dogs and a bucket of popcorn and a Diet Coke.
It costs that much, huh?
So, well, luckily, my mom has the Disney Vacation Club, so she
Oh,
pays for the
nice.
hotel, and mom is offering to pay for tickets. So, what the heck? Why not?
But it's a one price, all you can eat sort of thing. Not as a food, but you can just ride as many rides as you want to. And
So yes and no. We, as Florida residents, we get a Florida resident discount at Disney World, but they also have now what they call fast passes, and they've switched it up a few times. This will be our first time going to Disney under this new fast pass structure, but basically you pay extra above and beyond the ticket, and that gets you in the shorter lines for the different
oh,
rides. So you don't have
wow.
to wait,
Okay.
2 hours in line for a ride.
That's one thing I have a hard time with. I don't sit well. I need to be
Yeah,
doing something. So that's a good idea, good decision.
yeah. So we're looking forward to. We've been to the last couple of years. So we started a tradition with my wife the last year that she was alive. We went to Arizona for spring break. And so last year we went up to Atlanta, up to Georgia, and then into Chattanooga, Tennessee for spring break. And then this year we went down to Naples, we went over to the Keys, we went up to Boca Raton.
Wow.
So we've done a spring break vacation every year, and then like I said, my mom likes taking us to Disney. So I would say my kids and I have been to Disney, I don't know, probably close to a dozen times. Not
Wow.
the younger boy, but at least with
Yeah.
the older son, probably about a dozen times.
That's awesome. That's so fun. And I know some people will argue with this, but I think it is entertaining, but I think it can also be educational to get out there and
Yeah,
especially with the parents.
yeah. Epcot has a lot of good educational opportunities for the kids, and I like going to Disney. I grew up in Miami. I'm a Florida native, born and raised, and so we went to Orlando every year when I was growing up, and so it's interesting to go now as a dad and see Disney again through their eyes. Is almost as fun. And it really hasn't changed that much since I was a kid. So I go and I
Really?
remember all this stuff too.
How fun. That is great. Well, that's a great subject. And I'd love to talk about that a little bit more. But one of the first questions, if you don't mind, let's just kind of take off with, because there'll be a lot of people that will watch this podcast. And what advice can you offer them, the ones that may be going through some grieving the loss of a loved one? And it would be the cancer, and it's more prevalent now, and it's sad in so many ways. Is there anything that you did that was special or that you could share with others that may have helped, that could help them, may have helped you going through it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I remember. So my wife was diagnosed in late 2022. I want to say September or October of 2022, and she passed in December of 23. So we had her for about 14 months between the diagnosis and when she ultimately passed. And in January of 23, so right after, I mean, the diagnosis is still fairly new. My older son plays on a travel soccer club, and so we had a game in Jacksonville, and I was sitting in the lobby with some of the other parents, some of the other dads. The kids had all gone to bed. We were sharing some bourbon and just talking as dads and soccer dads and whatnot. And I remember one of them saying to me, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you manage, your wife just had this diagnosis, you've got the two kids, you've got, and I have been shedding responsibilities, but at the time I was the team manager for the soccer club. I was the treasurer for my younger son's Cub Scout pack. I was the president of my homeowners association. I mean, I have trouble saying no to people, but
It sounds like it.
yeah. But what I said to him was, what's the alternative? I'm not gonna curl into a ball and start crying every night. You gotta put one foot in front of the other. You gotta be the dad. You gotta be the role model. And so when I'm with my kids, when I'm with my wife, I'm doing things to help them, to support them. Now, that doesn't mean there weren't times I'd be alone in the car, bawling my eyes out, but publicly you got to do what you got to do. And I did have, probably in June of 23, um I had signed up with a private counselor, and so that was a huge help to have a counselor to bounce these thoughts and feelings and talk to her about what was going on in my life. um After my wife passed, and we can get more into some of this as well, but after my wife passed, I contacted my kids' school counselors, and they got us set up with counseling through the school system.
Good.
And so we've had, my younger son had a counselor. Now that school's out of session, they've taken a break, but I assume they'll start up again when school starts. But my younger son had a counselor. We had family counseling, the three of us. We had a family counselor that would come out once a week and sit here at home and talk to the three of us. And my older son did not want a counselor. And so I think I learned, not to push. We all grieve differently. And so if he's not ready for a counselor right now, I'm not going to push that on him. So I think those are my two biggest um, takeaways, is that you gotta keep going. You can't,
You do.
take some time, do what you got to do. There's even today I was talking to a friend of mine about, and a wave of grief came over me, but one foot in front of the other, and get help. There's a Facebook page for solo dads, and so I joined that group, and I got involved in that group as well. And so having the experience of other widowers has also been tremendous, because we all know, and even within the widower community, it's interesting because, for example, my wife um, battled this disease for 14 months. There are other people in the solo dads group that the wife got into a car accident and passed away, or it was a 2 month between diagnosis and when the wife passed. So there's all kinds of different levels of what we all go through, and so how we deal with it, and how we're able to process it.
It is true, and I'm so glad as a coach that you're thinking about those things. And your oldest son, maybe even some macho, because macho is not always negative. Macho can be very valuable, but him
Yeah.
not wanting a coach, but him wanting to stand on his own 2 feet. I have coaches, I have two of them, but coaches coaching coaches. It's we coach each other in the process and help each other. But it helps us open up. But your oldest son, leaving that open for him, I'm sure could have been difficult at times, but he may
Yeah.
come around later where he may want somebody to talk to still, right?
Yeah. And if you ever, I told them, when my wife went into hospice, I sat both boys down and I said, I'm always going to be honest with you, and I want you always to be honest with me, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, and I'll always be straight with you. And so I think that helped a lot as well. And I actually, just before jumping on this call, I got a text message that end of year report cards were out. My older son got straight A's, and my younger son got, I think, two B's and the rest A's. So they're both good students. I get compliments all the time about they're just good kids, they're good people, which I'm sure my wife had much more to do with than me. But yeah, they're good boys, and so I want to encourage that as well.
And I'm so glad you're on here because I think it shows also, I agree with you 100%. I know I lean on my sweetheart a lot of times when she doesn't even think I do because she does drive more than she thinks. But I think you're also, though, a great dad because that ability where you were able or you fought forward to stay active and to keep them active and keep them involved in the things that they're doing and these summer programs you're putting your sons into,
Yeah.
keeping them involved.
And that does remind me, we have a tremendous community here. So we there are moms and dads that were friends of mine and my wife's that have helped out with the boys. My mom lives in Tallahassee. Ironically, I lost my dad a few months ago. So
Oh, I'm
um,
sorry.
yeah, the last couple of years have kind of beaten me up a little bit, but we have a tremendous community of moms and grandparents and friends, and my son is in this cooking camp with two other of his friends, and me and the other two moms have all coordinated where we're gonna, I'm only picking up or dropping off, on 2 or 3 of the days, and the other moms are doing it the other days. And so we're very, very lucky to have a tremendous community of people that are helping us out as well. So I remember one of those moments that caused me to break down a little bit. My kids, my son had a bike that he had outgrown, and this was right after my wife passed, and he was still riding this smaller bike to get to school every day. And the friend of his, so he would ride to his friend's house, and then they would ride to school together and lock up their bikes. And the mom of the friend saw that my younger son was riding this bike that was too small, and so one day, brand new bike shows up on my doorstep. And
Wow.
I called her and I said, "What the heck is this?" And she said, "Well, we had collected up some money to buy him a used bike, but we had collected up so much money that we just bought him a brand new one." And a few
What a
months,
great neighborhood.
it was
Family
amazing.
circle.
And then a few months later, it happened again, but with my older son. So my older son got jealous that my younger son got a new bike. So the same group of moms collected more money and bought my older son a bike.
Mhm.
And so we have, it's kind of ironic. I had a friend of mine just pass away a few months ago, and like you mentioned, I have a podcast, and so I'm very connected to the podcast community, especially here in Tampa Bay. And the guy who passed was very well known in the podcast community, and so I'm on some of those podcast Facebook pages and whatnot.
Right.
And I remember the post going out saying, "Hey, we need to start a meal train for the widow." And I responded to the message, because that's what, when people say when people hear someone's passed away, the first thing they think is meal train. Let me get them food. My experience with food was that we got so much of it that we couldn't eat it all before it went bad. And people would say, "Well, just throw it in the freezer." My freezer was full of food. And so between what was in the freezer and what was in the fridge, we couldn't eat it fast enough. Plus, I'm diabetic. I've got type 2 diabetes. And so
No.
it's under control. I exercise, I eat right. My A1C is normal. My fasting sugar is back to normal, but I still have to watch my sugar intake. And so they're making me pastas, and I remember one of them made me chicken parmesan, which is breaded chicken, and pasta, which are two things that
Yes.
will spike your blood sugar. And so what I did was I reached out to that podcaster group and I said, "Hey, look, if the widow wants food, go for it. But here's what would be better than food. Get her a
That's
gift
awesome.
card, get her a gift card to the grocery store, get her a gift card to a restaurant, get her one of the ladies in my community bought me 2.5 or 3 months worth of maid service. And so I had a maid come in every 2 weeks and clean the house.
How
Um, and, I,
helpful.
and I've continued with that. So I now, pay her, and she was actually here today. So my house is clean. My wife would be happy that my house is clean. Um, in 2 weeks, don't ask me, but in 3 weeks, when she comes back, ask me again. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways to help people, and there's lots of things that I'm very thankful for to the community.
Well, Shawn, if you don't mind, I want to commend you on your attitude because it's tough. And I have no idea what it's like, what you've been through. Both my parents passed of lung cancer, but the attitude that you have kept, that smile that you have in your voice, I think that is a signal to, I hope everyone that's on this call, that listens to this call, to see that it can be done. You've been
Yeah,
through a lot, but
and
your attitude, how do you do that?
I appreciate it, and I wish I had a good answer for your question. It's just goes back to one of the original points that I made, which is, what is the alternative? I mean, I'm not gonna. It's not gonna do anybody any good for me to, cry all day and be depressed that I lost my wife. It is constantly something I am sad about. I think about her every day. Her pictures are still up. In fact, you can't see it, but there's a picture of her right over there. There's pictures of her all over our house. Every time I log on to Facebook and I see Facebook memories, and so I'm never gonna forget her. I'm never gonna let the
Right.
boys forget her. I always miss her. I'm always gonna miss her. I'm always gonna love her. But I mean, you gotta put one foot in front of the other. You gotta keep moving forward. Now, do I give myself permission to let loose and chop some onions every once in a while? Sure. But you got to be, you just, I don't know. I don't know that I have a really good answer for that question.
Well, I think you did answer it. I thought you answered it very well. And like you're saying, the chopping onions time to go ahead and cry. It doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't
Yeah.
hurt me to cry. It doesn't hurt you to
Right.
cry. It doesn't hurt anyone to cry. It's what you do after it. And so I talk to people from the Christian areas, Christian neighborhoods in our church is it's great to get down on your knee and pray, or knees and pray, but you've got to get up off your knees to make
Mhm.
things happen. And that's what we all have to do in each and every incident of our life. What happens is we can cry, we can pray, we can do a lot of things, but we have to get up and keep going. And I think that what you've done a great job doing with yourself and your sons, and being that great dad from good to great, because you're actually keeping them involved in things. As you mentioned, you'll never forget her. You'll never quit loving
Right.
her.
Right.
But to have that life to continue going, and I know many times you'd wish that she could see you or could be there, but just with her looking down on you and smiling, you know that it's still the best for all of you, for
Yeah.
everyone. And that keeping going and making something of your life is as you would want her to, right? If the situation was changed.
I was talking to somebody, I was talking to a friend of mine about that today. One of my mentors, one of my business coaches, I was talking to her about this today, and I said, that it's with with grief, it's interesting. So I would never want to hurt myself. I would never do anything to myself intentionally. But sometimes I can't help but think, what would my kids' lives look like? What would this world look like if the situation was reversed? What would it look like if I had been the one that contracted pancreatic cancer and died, and my wife were still here? And not from a perspective of I would ever hurt myself, but more just from the perspective of what would that what would that look like? What would be, the I'm a huge superhero fan, and so Marvel has that show on Disney Plus called What If, and they, what would happen if, you know Peggy Carter was Captain America or Captain Britain instead of Steve Rogers becoming Captain America? What would be different? What would the world look like? And I've thought about that from time to time, and it's grief is a weird thing, and you just gotta, when I feel one of those waves come on, I'll get up and I'll walk around and I'll take a breath, or if it's later at night, maybe I'll pour myself a glass of bourbon or whatever. But
Mhm.
you do what you got to do.
You do what you've got to do, and you continue on with some that strength and that power that you can share with others.
Yeah.
And one of the things, a little bit of change of subject, but when I relate it back to my situation back during my divorce and the custody issues, I am also appreciative that you are working with the moms as well. Of course, working with the dads, but the best parent is both parents. Now you'll see me here this week focusing on and helping the fathers, the dads, and dad parenting because it's June, and then I'm going to do the mothers in August. Be doing the same thing in August. But that ability for the male, the man in the situation has been difficult because I know when it was me, I was looked at a little bit awkwardly. Most people were just impressed that I was there. Would be me and not really 99. I like that word 99, I guess, but 99 other women and one guy. And I participated, and my two kids were there. I had a boy and a girl, and to be able to work with them, and they worked with me. They helped me feel comfortable. And I think a lot of dads, a lot of fathers today won't do that because of that, still feeling separate, still feeling maybe
Yeah.
separated from the,
I almost came at it from the other angle. So I really haven't had an issue talking to moms when it's and a lot of our friends. I don't know that we've really had any of the friends that me and my wife had, the parents that have been through a divorce yet. I can maybe think of one couple, but other than that, um, and so it's just, I'm talking to my friends, and whether it's the wife or the husband or whatever. The interesting thing was, a friend of mine just turned 40 earlier this year. And so here in Tampa Bay, we had the Reggae Rise Up Music Festival. And so he's a huge reggae music fan. And so he
yeah,
invited me to go with him on his 40th birthday to go to the festival. And my first thought was, I'm going to be the only single guy going. And here's all, I'm going to be like the 11th wheel or whatever it was. But nobody really cared. It was kind of weird, going to that first New Year's party without my wife, and I kind of felt like people were looking at me like, "Oh, that's the guy whose wife just died," but they really weren't. That was all in my own head, and feeling like the 11th wheel at Reggae Rise Up, all that was in my own head. That's nobody really, in my experience, nobody really thinks that way, and I think for me and my personality, it's healthy for me to talk about it, because a lot of people get apprehensive about, oh, his wife died. But if I talk about it, that takes away some of the apprehension where, other people talk about it. And so that's, again, everybody's personality, everybody's grief, everybody is different, but that's
right.
that's what helps me.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up too about that you mentioned the 11th wheel, that feeling awkward, but it is on us when we're that way. It's mostly us. It's not the other people. They would like to talk if you want to talk, and to be able to be a little bit more outgoing, like you're saying,
Right.
makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's been healthy to talk about it for me. and
Yeah.
and I get, everybody's different, so other widowers may not want to talk about it, and that's fine too.
It is. Well, what's kind of inspired you to focus some of your work? Is this kind of things that we're talking about? maybe inspired you a little bit on helping the dads and the fathers and the families going forward?
So you're talking about from the my job, from the legal perspective you're talking about?
Well, I'd like to be maybe even touch a little bit on both, but yes, mostly your legal perspective and what you do in law and helping because you help people on the financial side, and a lot of people
Yeah.
going through divorce have financial issues. We hate to admit it. I know I did,
Yeah.
but it's
So
difficult. But
I've known since high school that I wanted to be an attorney. My dad was a CPA. Excuse me. My dad was a CPA, and so my undergrad degree is in accounting. I tell people that qualifies me to run a calculator, and that's about it. But my dad was a CPA, and so that's why I went got the undergrad degree in accounting. But I knew from day one that I wanted to be an attorney. For me, everything kind of goes back to, interestingly, when I was growing up, I was bullied. I was 90 pounds soaking wet and straight A student in the band, although I was in the drum line, so that's a little different. But um, and so interestingly, the kids that picked on me were not the jocks. My best friend in the entire world. I've known this guy since I was 4, since we were 4. He's my best man. I was his best man. I still see him every year or so. We get together. We in fact this spring break trip that I mentioned when we went down to the Keys, we went down and went fishing and swimming with him in the Keys. He was captain of the football team, captain of the wrestling team, first baseman on the baseball team. So none of the jocks ever picked on me growing up. The band kids were a different story. When I was in that band room, I had to defend myself, and so I was really bullied a lot growing up as a kid, and so I think that's shaped me in terms of, I don't like when people feel or appear bullied. And so that led to the financial bullies, and people are coming after me for money, and that then led to the real estate and the bankruptcy practice that I have now. The interesting thing, I was doing a presentation to one of my networking groups and talking about this concept of bullying and whatnot. And pancreatic cancer is probably the biggest bully I've ever faced, but
wow,
I'm gonna
yeah,
do what
that
I can to take a chunk out of its rear end. So all of that just seems to fit into why I do what I do.
that's amazing, and the strength that you have is it mentally is amazing in what in that whole process. And as you talk about this, and as you're describing some of these situations, did you find any maybe unique challenges that you may have faced, maybe fathers face after the loss of a spouse? I think you mentioned a couple earlier, but what are some
Yeah.
major?
There's a difference between, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for any single parent. But that being said, I think there is a difference between a widow or widower and a divorcee. In most cases, in or some cases, when a couple gets divorced, the parents can split responsibilities. Now, I know there's custody issues, and there's if there was abuse or whatever. I get all that, but generally, in a divorce situation, the parents can kind of split custody if they want to, if they need to, if they're able to. In a widow or widower situation, that's not possible. I mean, I can't. My wife isn't here anymore, so the possibility of joint custody is gone. So I've got to take on everything, and it hit me last year. My son was trying out for the soccer team, and he made a soccer. Those are the pictures behind me here of all the different soccer teams.
Yeah,
But he
that's
made the soccer.
awesome.
Yeah, he made the soccer team, but he didn't make it at the level that he wanted. And so I remember I approached it from the guy perspective. We're going to work out. We're going to go for runs. We're going to take soccer lessons. You're going to try hard. You're going to do better next year. And it hit me that what he probably needed was just a hug from mom to say, "You're the best soccer player ever, and I love you." And it kind of hit me that I now have to be dad
Both.
and mom, and I need to come at it from both angles, and that that presents another set of challenges. I was very, like I said, I was very honest with my kids, and I said to them both, you all are going to have to grow up a lot sooner than you would have if mom were still here. I leave, so during the school year, my younger son we live about a mile from school. So my younger son would ride his bike to school. One of the moms picks up my older son and takes him to the bus stop. And so I would get out of the house between 7:30 and 8 o'clock after my older son got picked up. But then I got to leave the office by 3:30 at the latest, because I'm picking up both boys, both of my older son and his friend. I'm picking them up at the bus stop to bring them home, and then I've got to finish my work day from home. But then if there's soccer practice that night, I can't work. I got to focus on dinner. Or if there's Cub Scouts that night, I got to focus on dinner. Or I got to leave to go to the Sur La Table to pick them up, or whatever it is. So it's a lot of adjustment in terms of from 8 to 3, I have to go all out working. I mean, I eat lunch while I work. I'm basically tied to my desk. But once 3 o'clock, 3:30 rolls around, I got to give myself permission to do what I can. And if there's an urgent matter, I'll do it. If not, it'll be there tomorrow.
And look at the memories though that you're making, Sean. That's one of the things that even my better half and I, we talk about is the pictures. And we're good at sending pictures back and forth, but those pictures that you're creating, those memories you're creating, those are going to be so important. Like both my kids are in their 30s and they're way beyond. I'm lucky to get a call once in a while or call them and they have time to talk.
Right.
These memories that you're building right now, these pictures are so important for you and for them.
Yeah. Well,
It's
and
it,
that's probably what drives me is, now I've got to be super organized. I've got to be, what are we doing for me? I wake up at 5 o'clock every morning. 5 to 6 is for me. So I'll have a cup of coffee. I'll read. Sometimes I put on running shoes and I go out for a run, whatever it is. 6 o'clock, I got to start on lunches and breakfast and pack the boys' lunches and make breakfast for everybody. They're out the door 7:30, 7:30. I'm on with my day. I'm home at 3. I pick them up. By about 4 o'clock, I am done. And
I can only imagine.
I got to work. I have had to work a little bit more on the weekends. I used to um, do nothing on Friday. I have a networking meeting every Friday morning. I record my podcast episodes on Friday after that. And then typically I was done. Now I've had to cannibalize a Friday here and a Friday there to, catch up on any work that I might have missed during the week. And
Yeah.
I have to be very, if it's not on my calendar, it's not getting done. I
It's not.
don't have room. People say, call me when you can. I can call you at like 2 o'clock tonight in the morning, but
That's
what do
why
you mean
I
call
send
me
them to
when you
my
can?
Calendly link and say, find time on there at 15-minute, 30-minute breaks, find time there.
Yeah.
But, Sean, we only have about 8 more minutes. I'm going to touch on just a couple of things because it is Father's Day week and this is Mental Health Month for fathers and for dads. And what services or programs can you offer specifically for dads and families at your office?
At my office, so again, my biggest focus is debt and helping people to eliminate debt. And that's what the podcast is about, is about getting out of debt. And there's a lot of questions that I get when someone dies. And ironically, when my dad passed, I was answering those same questions for my mom and my sister. And you know when someone passes, the majority of their debt passes with them, and so you don't necessarily have to pay it. Now if the debt is joint debt, so if my wife and I had, like, our mortgage, for example, is joint debt, I still got to pay that, because that's under my name. I want to keep the house. But I think the advice that I would give would be to pre-plan. People don't want to talk about estate planning, and it was I don't know if the right word is ironic or weird or strange or ominous, but my wife was diagnosed within a month or two after we signed our estate planning documents.
Wow.
And I'm at 2020 hindsight, I'm glad we did it, because when she passed, there were no issues with her, retirement accounts. There were no issues with her assets. There were no issues with, putting any of that stuff together. When she went into hospice, I had all the paperwork to give to hospice to be the medical surrogate and all that kind of stuff. And doing the estate plan just gave me peace of mind. And so I think I would probably say the biggest piece of advice that I would give somebody else, although I rambled on for a minute, was get with your estate planning attorney and get your estate plan in place before it's too late. And it's morbid to think about, but it gives you such comfort when it's done, because if something happens to me, here's what my wife is going to do. If something happens to my wife, if something happens to both of us, if something happens to the kids, it just gets rid of that part of the stress level.
And that's one of the things that I do is help them communicate that it is a tough situation, but we are all going to go through this at some point or another. And we just don't know when it's going to happen. So the better that we can talk about it and find out what each other wants, it
Right.
makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
That's
No,
that's
I
where we've got
and
to be.
yeah, I talked to my wife about it. What do you want to do when you go? And we had those were that conversation, the conversation about what happens when you die, was a very weird one. The other weird one was lying in bed, and my wife would say, when I'm gone, you have my permission to date. And I would always respond and say, can I wait till you're gone, or do you want me to start like right now? um,
And she smiled and didn't hit you. That's a good attitude. Uh, yeah,
so,
it's
but yeah,
but it
we
sounded like
we
you had
had
a great relationship.
yeah, we did. We unfortunately, so May would have been our 15th wedding anniversary. We knew each other. I think we met in 2007, I believe. So, she was only part of my life for 17, 18 years, but two boys, she was largely the most significant part of my life.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And as you talk about that, what's been as you work with families and helping family, what's been maybe one of the most rewarding aspects of your work so far and in helping others?
I think that's it. In other words, I know that I've done a good consultation with a client when they say, thank you, I can sleep tonight. Or I just spoke with a client today that we had to file a bankruptcy for her. The We had her meeting with the trustee today. The trustee saw no issues. She's going to get her discharge. Her debt's going to be eliminated. And just listening to the weight lift off of her shoulders, and knowing that she's now debt free, that's what drives me every day.
And it's good in those phone calls and the stress that goes along with that problem. Thank you for doing that. There's again a lot of people that you know better than I do that just don't know that it's not wrong. It's a way to rebuild your life.
Yeah.
And
And there's been plenty of people that I've said bankruptcy is a bad choice, but there's been plenty of people that need that second bite at the apple. And it's a tool that's granted by our Constitution and our federal and state laws. And so everyone needs a helping hand from time to time.
and like you said, there's always what I call the 20%. I have a speech on that, the 20-60-20 principle based off the Pareto 80-20 rule. There's going to be 20% of extremes on both sides, no matter what you
Right.
do. It's people that are going to want to file bankruptcy only to just escape paying debts they shouldn't have bought to begin with. And there's
Right.
going to be the 20% that are just in extremely bad situations that they have no choice. If they don't do it, it's much worse than ever. But there's a lot of people that are going through things that you've gone through and or others and much worse that sometimes you're put in a bad situation, right? And you need to recover and not take that down
Yeah.
with you, but
Good.
rebuild.
Bad stuff happens to good people all the time. And that's what bankruptcy is for when it's financial.
Is there anything we have about just about 2 minutes, left, minute and a half left? Thank you so much, Shawn. I so appreciate you being on here and giving some good insight to others, the fathers, but mothers as well, parents on this show. And if there's people like you out there that can help, what message? You have a message you'd like to leave with the fathers and the families who may be struggling right now?
Reach out to somebody, talk to somebody, whether that's your best friend, whether that's your, yoga buddy, whether that's your cigar buddy, your drinking buddy, a professional counselor, whatever. Reach out to somebody, because there are always people that will want to talk to you. Reach out to me. I mean, I don't care talking to other, solo dads. I'll do that, or solo moms, even, widows, even. I'll do that as well. But reach out to somebody.
Thank you, Shawn. I so appreciate you being on here and being able to reach out to those because our call to action is how can we, you, and all of our valued listeners join us in strengthening fatherhood, motherhood, parenting, and promoting family unity in our own community. We invite everyone to reflect on today's discussion and consider one small step that each of us can take, whether it's reaching out to another dad, another mom, another parent, seeking support for ourselves, getting a hold of Shawn, or advocating for family friendly initiatives, because each of our actions matter. Thank you for joining us today on this journey toward unity, inspiration, and stronger families. Remember, every step we take, and Shawn mentioned this, that one step, every step we take together makes a difference. Keep moving forward and let us all continue building a brighter future for our children and our family and our community. Join us in honoring every father's journey as we celebrate them this month. And let's continue building stronger, healthier families together. Until next time, take care and stay united. Thank you for joining us because remember, by encouraging, inspiring, and including others, EII, you are actively building unity and success in every aspect of your life. As you talk about that, remember, August for us is Mom's Month. Moms, mothers, and parenting, and their parenting challenges in the new world that we have today, in our changing world, because the world that we're all improving, one ending the disconnection, one of those, one ending frustration, ending the prejudice through encouraging, inspiring, including others. We need that. Shawn, thank you again. Thank you for bringing this message to all of us.
Thank
It's been a
you. I
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Been an honor. So until next week, life is truly what we make it. So let's make it awesome together in unity. Cheers.